Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person. And today, I want to talk to you about Axiom Verge. This is a game that is available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, and the version I played was the one on the PC. I got it on Steam. And I don't usually, do Steam games on my Real Person Reviews thing, as you know. So far I believe I've done one of them, but this one I really think I needed to talk about because it was so good. So Axiom Verge is basically it's a Metroidvania game, very heavily focused on the Metroid part. It's very inspired by things like Metroid, Super Metroid, and just the 2D Metroid games in general. Even down to a lot of the, some of the enemy patterns and the way, it looks visually in the kind of 8-bit type style, looks very Metroid. And if you don't know what a Metroidvania game is, to kind of quickly sum up, this kind of game, in this one, is where you're running around, you're jumping, there's 2D platforming, there's shooting things, you're collecting power-ups, and exploring this huge connected world, finding power-ups and new weapons and getting new abilities to help you solve puzzles, better combat enemies, and progress through the game. There are also boss fights in this game, and there's it's generally stuff like that. There's a pretty cool story going on here, and I don't really want to spoil stuff, but the main plot, basically starting out, is that you're this brilliant scientist called Trace something. I don't remember if they say the last name or not, but you're Trace, and you're in this lab explosion, and you think that you've died, but you wake up in this weird, unknown place, and you have to figure out, where you are. Basically, the goal is to figure out where you are, and, basically, where you are, figure out how to survive, and figure out how to get home. That's pretty simple thing set up here, but there's a lot of other things that start getting unfolded in the story. You start figuring out stuff about the world you're in and everything that's cool. It's doled out, and there are some cutscenes in here which are cool. I don't usually like cutscenes that much, but they weren't, real long cutscenes. I think the opening was a little long, but most of the cutscenes are, a little shorter. And there's some dialogue going on. Plus, there are these little things you can find as you're exploring, the little notes and stuff that will, if you find them, and you can miss them, but if you find them, you'll uncover a little more bits of the story that's all, mysterious, and it's kind of dark, and it's also kind of confusing, so it's interesting in that it keeps you gripped. You never know, okay, this is what's happening, I know the story. You're always kind of guessing, is it like this, or is it going to be like this? And you don't really know, and that mystery and confusion helps with this whole atmosphere that's built, because, you're already in this weird unknown place with a bunch of, hostile creatures around that you're trying to fight off, and you still feel very alone in a lot of this, and confused, and you're really just looking out for yourself most of the time. I don't know, it's pretty cool how the story develops and how things go, but I don't really want to spoil that stuff. And there's some things I think that help make this a little different from Metroid 2. You go around and get different things for power-ups, but it's more than just there's just a lot of cool tools you can get. I guess are pretty similar, whereas you get different things that will help you progress, giving you new abilities that help you overcome obstacles and do different maneuvers. But there are cool things you can find, these. You can find things to upgrade your health. You can find things to upgrade for your projectiles. You can upgrade the damage, and you can increase the size of your projectiles. You can also increase the range of them. So for all of your guns, you can increase the power, the size, and the range. And it's pretty interesting, because then as you go on, you do get stronger. It gets easier to do things, and it's just a cool new way of looking at how you can increase your abilities. There's also a ton of different guns you can find, just for guns to play with, and some of them you're required to get through a couple of parts, but most of them you have to go around and just explore and find them, and that's really cool, because while there's a lot of cool little things to try to explore and little puzzles to figure out how to get to different parts of the map and how to just find these secret things to get to all of the items and such. There's a lot to find there. And like all these guns, I like the guns aren't like reliant on ammo. All of these guns have infinite ammo, but like the way they're balanced is that, you know, some of them are weaker than others. Some of them have better like spread, or like they, you know, maybe they'll like go through a wall. Maybe they can do like the pattern of the weapon or something is good for fighting certain kinds of enemies. And, you know, different guns are good for different situations, so, like, maybe you want to use, you know, just try everything out and see, like, well, you know, it's just fun to do all the guns. Maybe you want to just use certain guns for certain situations, because this gun's good against fighting these enemies, or, like, and this gun's good against fighting these enemies. Or maybe you just, like, I just want to pick the one that's the coolest, that's my favorite, and just use that gun the whole time. It doesn't matter, you can do what you want, and they're, like, it's cool because it's just a whole lot of fun. You just mess around with those weapons. It's just cool, and find all the new weapons and see what they're like and what they do. So that's cool. And like, you know, the 8-bit like stuff and like the graphics, I like it's got some good color in it. While a lot of it is dark and like mysterious, there are still a lot of really cool like colorization going on and some cool art in there. And the music is also really, really good. Like, I thought the music was actually pretty cool, kind of like John Carpenter-esque. So that was really interesting to like hear all of that. And to have all that come together, and you know, the gameplay, the controls are tight. The control scheme is a little weird to get used to as you get all these new things, but you do adjust to it, and it's actually pretty comfortable once you do get used to it. And like, it's kind of crazy that like it was Tom Happ is this one guy that did like all of the graphics, the arts, and like the gameplay, the art, the music, all that, like all of the main stuff was just him. And I think he had some people helping him for some of the stuff, but it was mostly just done all just by him. It was insane. It's awesome. It was like super cool, and this game's like really, really good. And it's a good length game too, with all these different things for you to find and these maps to explore. You know, percentages for the items you're getting and the map you're exploring, and all these cool different items and the story. It's just really cool how it all kind of comes together. And some of the parts in there were really cool to see and like interesting. So you always knew like you're getting to a new part, and it's like, oh cool, a new thing is like unraveled itself. That's really interesting. That's something for me to think about while I keep going through the game. So it's just, I think there's enough differences in like the gameplay and the settings and a lot of that it's different enough from you know, the Metroid games to be considered, you know, still be considered its own thing and not just ripping off Metroid. But there are a few things I thought that weren't necessarily that great about it, I guess. It didn't run perfectly on my computer, but my computer's old and it's kind of worn out, so I'm sure it'll work fine. If you get it on a PS4 or PS Vita, for sure it should run because it's designed for those. But like, if you have like a decent computer, you know, that's not worn out, you'll be fine. It's not a real high performance game, so that's cool. And like, it's so that's probably fine. I didn't like the lack of like choice in some parts, but like, then again, like, you're not you in the game, you're a character, so you can't like decide certain story parts. Like, the story is going to happen a certain way, you have to hit the story beats, and your character is making choices based on who that character is, so I guess that's fine, and it makes sense. And one of the things that's annoying too is like, one of the things that I think was maybe an actual complaint is like, you know, it's not a game where you can really grind, you know, like, you can go around and try to explore the rest of the map and get all the items and go back and do that stuff before you finish the game. If you miss stuff, and you probably will miss stuff, but like, that was annoying because it's not like other games where you level up for killing enemies. It's kind of annoying in that, you know, like, going to go get these things, it isn't rewarding. It's just actually getting those things that's cool. So, like, on the way trying to get to those things and find them and figure out the puzzles, it's a lot of boring. Like, you gotta go and, like, kill enemies and do these parts over again, and they can get a little repetitive, especially if you have to backtrack through the same areas multiple times. It can get pretty tedious in that regard. Also, there's some things that are so well hidden that I don't know how you would find them, you know, without either just exploring, like, an insane amount to the point where it's not fun, or to the point where, you know, like, you know, like, just because there's some things that you can't, you know, necessarily know. Like, there are these random, like, warp things you can find, like, these secret world things you can go into, and apparently there's 5 of them. I found one of them in the whole game, and I thought I was looking, you know, for them pretty well, but I guess not. So, that's something that's kind of annoying to, like, the whole, like, aspect of, like, going around and, like, doing stuff, like, to try to find the things. The act of finding the things isn't as fun as just the actual reward of having found them, to a certain point, so there's that. And in the controls, my only other real complaint is that there's this thing in the controls where basically you get this ability to do, like, a dash at one point. And you do the dash by double tapping in a direction, which it sounds easy to do, but, like, it's tough because sometimes, you're, like, moving, you just want to make some slight movements. You're like, oh, I gotta move, like, to the right, and then, like, oh crap, the enemy's gonna hit me, I gotta move to the right again. And instead of just moving a little more to the right because you didn't wait long enough and you tap right again, you'll zip over to the right, and you'll do the dash instead. So then you're in a position you didn't want to be in, and it's confusing, and it can happen with other directions as well. And I've had a lot of instances where that messes me up. So you can kind of lock your position there's a button to lock your position to help kind of stop that from happening a bit sometimes, or if you turn all the way around and then try to move, it can work that way. But it's a weird adjustment because it's later on in the game after you've already been used to, just being able to move freely like that, and you can't, like, disable it either, and turn it off and on. So it's like, it's a little annoying for there, but I guess you can adjust to it. It's just, I had a lot of unnecessary damage and grief off of that thing, that mechanic. So it was an adjustment, and I don't know, that could have maybe been better, done better. And the other small complaint, I guess, I mean, I already mentioned the Metroid thing, where, like, I could see if you've already played, like, Metroid games, you might think it's too close to being, like, a Metroid or Super Metroid, and that might turn you off, but I think there's enough different stuff to make it different. It's just that I can understand someone thinking there's not enough difference for them, so that's really up to you to decide. And there's also this thing where replayability is a factor too, and for the downside of that, I'll say, like, replayability, it's not a game that it's probably not something you're gonna, like, finish, and then immediately start playing again, because, like, you go through all that, and you're like, I don't really want to go through all that again right away, unless you, like, super loved it, because it doesn't have that, it's just the way it's designed, you don't have that kind of nature, because you're like, okay, like, I've gone through the story now, I get the story, I've got the things, I did the stuff, I don't necessarily want to go back to square one and do all that again. I'm going to feel, like, weak and helpless and stupid, and it would be good for, like, exploring new things and trying it over again, but I just don't necessarily see you doing it right away. You can play on hard mode. Seems like the only thing is that you seem to take more damage in hard mode. That's all I really noticed, but maybe there's more later on. I only tested it a little bit. And there's also speedrun mode, which is just going through the game as fast as you can, eliminating all of the cutscenes and dialogue, which is kind of just, for competition's sake and for streaming, apparently. And I don't think either of those modes are that great. So unless you want to play in hard mode, you want to do a speed run, or if you want to try and get all the, the rest of the achievements, there's not much reason to replay it right away. But I will say that while it's not something you'll replay immediately, it's the kind of game where, for starters, it's like, I got like 16 hours, and I didn't even get 100% of all the stuff either. And it took me, I played it for like 16 hours, that's pretty good. Unless you want to get, do the hard mode, the speedrun, or the achievements, you're not going to start it over again right away. I mean, if you want the achievements, you probably will have to do hard mode and speedrun. But the thing is that, it's the kind of game where it's so good you'll be coming back to it. You'll play other stuff, and then, like, later on it's kind of getting, be like, I really want to play Axiom Verge again. I'm going to come back to this, you play it, and you're going to play through it again, and maybe then you'll do it on speedrun or hard mode. Maybe you'll do it on one of those, but go hunting for achievements, but it's just probably not something you're going to play again absolutely immediately, is all I'm going to say. So, Axiom Verge. The stuff in Axiom Verge, it's a great game. The art, the controls, the style, the type of game that it is great. It's one of the best Metroidvania games I've played, and I might like it. I like it more than the first Metroid anyway. I might like it more than something like Super Metroid and Metroid Zero Mission, but, It's up there. It's very, very good, and it's probably it's in my favorite Steam games. It's like my I'd probably put it in my top 3 Steam games. It'd probably be number 3. So it's fucking great. And if you like Metroid and the like 2D Metroidvania type games, definitely get the game. It's $20 right now. Full price for it's $20. That's pretty good for the amount of hours you're getting on it, plus the times you'll be playing it over and over again. $20 is a pretty damn good deal for how good this game is, not how fun it is. And yeah, I mean, like, a couple of things as always, I forget to mention things in their spots. Yeah, the bosses are kind of easy, and you can kind of exploit them on some parts if you have the right weapons or know what you're doing. And yeah, like your main gun is usually your strongest gun in any situation, but it has a few little flaws in it. It's not perfect, but it's so damn good, and it's interesting, and like the mix of like the story and like the atmosphere and the gameplay is beautiful. It's a great experience, and I think everybody should check this out. That's why I'm making a real person reviews on it, because it was that good. I usually don't do that for Steam games, so it's good. So you should buy it, like, now. I mean, you can wait for it to go on sale, but why bother? I didn't wait, and I do not regret it. Plus, that's more money to support the dude that made it, and apparently he wants to make more games in that universe and stuff. I don't know how that's going to pan out, but he did a good job with this one. There's hope. There's definitely hope there, I guess. So, you do what you will on the game. I'd hold it up, but it's a digital thing, so I can't hold anything up here. So, what did you guys think of Axiom Verge if you've played it? What was your favorite gun? I just used the Axiom Disruptor the whole time, pretty much, and the Orange, or whatever it was, the lightning gun. I used that secondarily when I wanted to hit things that were at an angle or something, usually. That was about all I used most of the game. And I don't know, like, what else to say here, except that, you've seen my favorite Steam game of Rogue Legacy. I reviewed that on here, and I have now reviewed my number 3 game on Steam, which is now Axiom Verge. So, what about the second Steam game? What's number 2? Well, you guys will be finding that out shortly, because I probably will be playing through it again, and playing through the new DLC that's coming, and then putting that game on here as well, so look forward to that. And if you guys, you follow the stuff, you probably already know what the game I'm talking about is. So, by the time this is up, who knows, that might already have the DLC out and stuff. Oh, and if you really wanted to see this, I wrote a review out for this. It's not on the Grapple Pit this time because it was a Steam game. So the written review for this game is on Steam. So the link in the description is linked to the Steam one. The link in the description goes to my Steam review. So if you guys wanted to, rate that one or comment on it there, I guess. Just wanted to see a written review instead of listening to me ramble this whole time. Even though if you're at this point, you probably did. Whatever, it's there. So go check that out, and I'm a real person, because I'm Sam. So, bye.